As you know, all month long, I'm sharing inspired lunch ideas to help get you ready for back to school or back to work. And today, I'm very excited to share with you 3 of my favorite recipes that can all be made in a muffin tin. What I love about cooking with muffin tins is that you end up with these portable, pre-portioned lunches, and you can make a big batch all at once and freeze what you don't use. How great is that? Today, I'm going to show you my recipe for my yummy Cajun Frittatas, some turkey quinoa mini meatloaves, and finally, some lightened up mac and cheese cups that feature a super secret ingredient. And the best part is, all 3 of these tasty recipes are completely gluten-free. All right, so let's get started with our Cajun Frittatas. I know a lot of you think of frittatas as a breakfast food, but they are actually amazing for lunch as well. And they can be eaten either cold or heated up in the microwave. It's totally up to you. For these frittatas, I'm going to be using some pork sausage, but you could also use some turkey, some chicken, or some vegetarian sausage if you wanted to keep these totally vegetarian. For this recipe, I'm getting started by cooking my sausage in a skillet on the stove. Because I'm using pork sausage, I'm not going to be adding any oil to my skillet. But if you are using veggie sausage, you'll definitely want to add a little splash of oil before you get started. All I'm going to do is crumble my sausage using the side of my spoon and cook it until it's no longer pink. Then I'm going to remove it from the pan and set it aside and get to work on sauteing my veggies. If you're finding your pan is a little dry, simply add a little drizzle of oil. To my pan, I'm going to add some finely diced red onion, some finely diced celery, and some red and green bell pepper. I'm going to saute all of these veggies until they start softening up. Then I'm going to add even more flavor. So I've got some minced garlic, some minced jalapeno, and some Cajun seasoning. I'm using my homemade Cajun seasoning, but you could also use store-bought if that's what you had on hand. I'm going to heat all of this flavor up for about 30 seconds or until it becomes fragrant. Then I'm going to add my sausage back to my pan, give it a good stir, and this is ready for our muffin tins. Now these frittatas love to stick, so I've greased my muffin tin thoroughly with some cooking spray before getting started. I'm simply going to spoon this mixture into each of my muffin cups, and then I'm going to get to work on my egg mixture. All I'm doing is combining some eggs and some milk and whisking it all together. I'm going to fill the remainder of my muffin cups with the egg mixture, and then into the oven these go at 375 for between 20 and 25 minutes or until they're completely set. Once they're done, you want to let them cool for at least 5 minutes before attempting to remove them from the muffin tin. How great do these look? Lunch is served. Next up, I'm going to show you my recipe for my turkey quinoa mini meatloaves. I love these because they are protein-packed and they actually freeze beautifully. The other thing I love about these is that they use cooked quinoa instead of breadcrumbs or oats as a binder, so they are very, very moist. Alright, so we are getting started with 1 pound of ground turkey in a large mixing bowl. To that, we're going to add a whole lot of flavor. So I've got some cooked quinoa, some shredded carrot, some celery, grated red onion, and then I'm going to add some barbecue sauce for some smoky sweet flavor and some Worcestershire sauce. A little goes a long way. And then 1 egg to help it all bind together. Next, it's time to get our hands dirty. There's really only one way to do this. You want to mix all of your ingredients until they're thoroughly combined with your hands, and then we're going to fill our muffin cups. Now for this recipe, I'm using these handy silicone cupcake liners because they actually make these meatloaves even more portable, but you can totally skip this step if you don't have any on hand. I highly recommend greasing your muffin tin liberally because you don't want these guys to stick. Then we're just going to fill each muffin cup with our meatloaf mixture, and into the oven they go at 375 for at least 25 minutes. What you're looking for is for them to reach an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. This is definitely a job for a kitchen thermometer. 5 minutes before they're finished cooking, I suggest brushing the tops with a little more barbecue sauce to add even more caramelized flavor. When they're done, they are super tasty and ready to be packed for lunch. Finally today, I'm going to show you my recipe for lightened up gluten-free mac and cheese. It all starts with my super secret special ingredient, butternut squash. So I'm getting started with some cubed butternut squash in a saucepan on the stove. To that, I'm going to add some vegetable broth, you could also use chicken broth here, a little milk, and some minced garlic. I'm going to bring this to a boil on the stove and then turn my heat down to medium-low. I'm going to let my squash simmer away until it's completely softened. Then I'm going to transfer it to my food processor. If you don't have a food processor, you could also do this with a blender or with a potato masher if you're willing to give it a little elbow grease. But it's really important to remember when you're blending hot liquids that you need to leave some room for the steam to escape. Otherwise, you could end up with a very dangerous explosion in your kitchen. What I like to do is leave the stopper off of my food processor and simply hold a kitchen towel over top. That way I can allow the steam to escape myself. All you want to do is blend your squash mixture until it's smooth, and then it's time to add some creaminess and some cheesiness. For our creaminess, I'm going to be adding a few tablespoons of Greek yogurt. And for our cheesiness, I'm going to be using some shredded Gruyere cheese and some shredded parmesan. If you are not into Gruyere, you can also use cheddar in this recipe. That would work just as well. I'm going to blend this all together until it's nice and smooth and the cheese is melted, and then I'm going to season it up with some smoked paprika and some pepper. To keep this recipe entirely gluten-free, I'm using a brown rice macaroni, which I've simply cooked according to package directions and then rinsed under some cold water. You could definitely use regular macaroni if that's what you had on hand. So I've got my macaroni in a large mixing bowl, and I'm simply going to toss it with all of this yummy cheesy sauce. I've got a well-greased muffin tin standing by, and I'm just going to spoon my mac and cheese mixture into each muffin cup. I'm going to finish these off with a little more smoked paprika, and into the oven they go at 375 for between 20 and 30 minutes. You're just waiting for the top to get nice and crispy. You'll want to let these beauties cool completely before removing them from the muffin tin, and then they're ready to be taken for lunch. I hope you'll give these tasty recipes a try, and if you do, be sure to tweet or Instagram me a photo, because you know I love seeing what you're coming up with in your very own kitchens. And if you have an inspired lunch idea, please leave it in the comment section below. And finally, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to The Domestic Geek, because there is lots more deliciousness where this came from.